Oh.
Why do you like that song, Natty?
Yeah, yeah.
Why do I like
that?
it?
What speaks
Why
to
you
you
so
about
why
that?
you so defensive, or I guess like offensive of TC?
I'm just wondering. Hey, that's a good question. That's a good...
That's
I
I'm the
like
one
picking
getting
on you. I
interviewed
like
now.
picking
All right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the ATG Podcast. Welcome back to episode 6. Oh, jeez. Why you always ruin it?
Dude, that's just gonna be part of the intro now, I feel.
I think it has to be.
Yeah, it just kind of.
Today,
It's how it goes.
we got tons of stuff going on. We're going to be talking a lot about music. We're going to be talking a lot about a specific band and person because we have a special guest here today.
Woo!
Our second guest ever. Let's welcome Chad Slade from Slade of Young Country to the podcast. There's going to be another audience cheering there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
So, before we get started, how do you guys relate? Just to get this out of the way.
I don't know. How do we?
Okay. Well, all right.
TZ?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No relations to TZ.
Oh,
but
no relation
no.
to Zeb at all. That's
Fair enough.
But
TZ's my son.
yeah.
Yes.
So
we brought you on to talk about Young Country, which is your band. You want to tell us just a little bit about that before we get into the game, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of it. Just for people who don't know.
Yeah.
Well, just Young Country was a band that happened quite a few years ago now, but we're still kind of out there playing live here and there. Did 2 somewhat studio albums. Did a lot of live performances, bar gigs. Won a few awards with the Ontario Country Music Association.
Nice.
Bar Band of the Year, I think three times. Rising Star 4 times. So we got a little bit of a resume there locally here in Ontario, and it kind of caught up a lot of steam. Played some very big venues around festivals. Now we're pretty much just doing the chip truck or rib fests and stuff like that live, rather than the bars and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, more doing recording now.
Awesome.
The fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know Natty has a lot to talk about. I know he's brought. I'm opening our document here. He's got tons of stuff here he's written down. So we'll get to all that stuff in a little bit. But we got a little bit of a game. Obviously, you've watched or you've listened to the show before, so we start every episode with a little bit of a icebreaker game. Yeah, and today I brought it, and so I brought Guess That Song.
Guess that song.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, so what I've done is I brought 5 songs, right? And I've taken some phrases from the songs. Basically, they're just any lines from anywhere in the song. I'm going to read them. Then if you can't get it, I'll read the second one. And if you can't get it that time, I will read it with like the tone, basically.
I get
That
you.
makes
So
any
not
sense.
just
So,
the
like,
lyrics, yeah.
Yeah, like if it's Yesterday from the Beatles, I'll be like, first time I'll be like, yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Second time I'll be like, yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now I know he's to stay. And the third time I'll be like, I'll actually kind of sing it, right? So,
Okay.
so
It might be a
there's
little
that.
obvious. If it was
Yeah,
yesterday,
well,
but
yeah. By the way, these are some of the most popular songs, and
Yeah.
then there's 2 that are more of a joke. But
that's fair.
we're just gonna read all 3 and see who can get the most.
One of them's
No.
Cottage Bound.
That's the one I won't get.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so you guys ready?
I think so. Are you ready?
All right, first song. So you think you can stone me and spit in my eye?
Oh wow.
I think wait.
All right. Well, after I read that, we had a bit of technical difficulties, but that's fine. We'll jump back into it. Do you guys have any guesses now, or?
Can you say the lyrics one more time?
So you think you can stone me and spit in my eye?
Is it Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen?
Yes, it is.
Nice.
Ooh!
Yes, it is.
Nice.
Oh.
That's during like the rock part of the
Right.
song. Yeah, so you think?
you
Yeah.
can stop me and stare in my eyes. Man,
Yeah. All
right.
right.
I'm
We'll move
surprised I
on to
got that.
song. We'll move on to song 2.
all right.
All right. Phrase 1. Darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour is close at hand.
Oh, Thriller.
That is Thriller.
Beat me to it.
That
I
is-
had to think of it. Yeah.
The Vincent
good.
Price.
This is Vincent Price. That's
yeah.
right.
That's good.
I was trying to think of what to pick from that song, and I was like, you just got to take that part. That's probably
Yeah.
All right. As I said, three of them are the most popular songs. Two of them are more of like funnier
Alright,
ones.
yeah.
So, all right, song 3. Here we go. Phrase 1. Let the world leave us behind. Let your heart be next to mine.
Oh no.
I can read phrase 2 if you guys want.
I'm right.
Is it Philip Phillips?
Yes,
what
it
song?
is.
Just starting listing off songs.
Raging Fire?
It is Raging Fire.
There you go. Nice.
I put that in there just to see if you guys really listening to it.
No. It's fair.
To me, it's just a chord progression, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's fair.
All right, song 4. Here we go. Phrase 1. If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now.
There's a hustle in your head.
There's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now.
I would say Stairway to Heaven.
That is Stairway to Heaven.
Dang. Killing it. I feel like I've already lost. You already got 3. I got just 1.
All right, here's the last
Well, we'll
one.
go
Last
for
one.
this one.
That one was tough. That one is
That
tough.
was good. Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten that. At least
Last
enough.
one is, all right, song 5, phrase 1. He said tomorrow won't last long, so keep up the family tree.
Oh, Life on the Plains.
The one I don't get.
My Young Country. Boom.
It sounded very familiar, though.
I couldn't put Cottage Bound in there because
It would be a-
every line is. Cool.
I was 100 expecting that.
Life on the Plains. Nice.
There
Okay.
you
All
go.
right. Well, there's our game. Not scuffed at
All
all.
right,
Not,
yeah,
thanks, Zoom.
Thanks, Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it seems seamless right after.
Yeah.
Yeah, after editing.
We'll
I'm sure
fix
it's
it in
fine,
post.
Yeah.
Fix it in post.
So yeah, I know. Because as I said before, I know Natty has probably brought tons of stuff. But we're gonna probably we'll go over the some of the songs of Young Country. We go over some of the highlight moments, and I also want to kind of touch on the music industry and kind of where it was when you were there, and kind of how it's changed today, because it's changed a lot, to be honest.
Big time.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
Sounds good.
Natty,
Yeah.
take it away.
All right. So I have a question. When did like Young Country begin, and like how did it start? Who did you start it with?
Oh, wow.
Good, man. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Very good
Oh.
question. I would say this timeline would be 1993, 92, 93, where my brother-in-law, Todd, was frequenting, he would keep going to this bar every Thursday night where they'd have a karaoke singing contest.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was first place was $100, second place was 75, third was 50, right? But no one would go to this place. So he'd be like, you got to come up on Thursday and just do this karaoke stuff. And you make money at it, right? It was just started up as a joke, really.
Yeah.
So each week we'd go up there and sing different songs, and either he would win one week or I would win the other week. And we just kind of get a giggle out of singing and someone actually paying for it. And then it was the owner of the club at that point saying, hey guys, I got this, famous Canadian act coming in to play on a Saturday night. You guys want to open up for him? And we were like, well, great, but we don't have a band. We don't do anything other than karaoke, So he's like, well, put a band together and you guys can do it. So Todd and I kind of went around and interviewing different players and different musicians. And at the time, because it just came out country, my voice, he was more of the rock side of the vocal itself. So
We'll do best.
so essentially that's where it all started. It was karaoke, singing in bars. We decided to get a band going. We got some players locally that we kind of met, put together. I think we knew maybe 8 songs total. We went into another bar and played a couple songs, and we got the gig for the next Saturday night. So we were scrambling to learn a bunch of songs really quickly just to kind of fill out the night, because we didn't know that many at that time.
Yeah, that can be definitely a struggle when it comes to putting shows together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you guys did like cover songs at first and all that sort of stuff?
We did all cover songs. Yeah, it was all cover songs. It was
Covers easy stuff to do, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and that's what people wanted to hear, right? People
Yeah.
wanted to get up and dance, and they didn't want to hear some unknown songs. We'd throw them in there as we were, years went on. Say a couple years went, we started writing our own stuff because everybody would kind of tell you that, like, if you really want to go anywhere in this business, anybody can be a cover artist.
yeah.
But to come up with your own stuff and your own material, that's what sells, and that's what you got to have a product, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what we were striving for. So, and that's where the Living My Life CD kind of came from. We knew we had to go down and record something. We knew nothing about recording or writing or anything like that at the time. So another couple of local guys in the business, friends of ours, kind of steered us to a company or a recording studio downtown in Toronto, and we recorded "Living My Life," the 4-song demo
With Cottage Bound.
with Cottage Bound, "Living My Life," "Searching for Your Broken Heart" until the end of time. We're on that one. And just learning that whole process of studio work and going in with pure professionals that know what they're doing. When we were 20, 21 years old, we didn't know anything about the process. So it was a good learning experience for sure, going in there and doing those songs.
Yeah. 100%.
Going in there, yeah. Is there so you wrote the Living My Life album, right? And that was what year was that? Do you remember?
Yeah, so 95 is when we recorded the Living My Life.
All right. And when was the Thinking Under Bar Lights?
It was 2000 we recorded that. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So a few years later.
I know Cottage Bound is probably one thing. Let's just start there.
Cottage Bound. Okay.
Right.
Sure.
Let's just start with Cottage Bound because everyone's, there's people in the MCBC community who are going to want to hear about that. So tell the story about how that was kind of put together.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a true story. Many years before the band, I played guitar too. So, in high school and that, you'd go down to different parties or whatever and bring out the guitar and sing different stuff. So Cottage Bound was really a true story where a bunch of guys got into a truck. It was 5 of us in a pickup truck with a cab in the back. And we were going to the cottage, and all of a sudden, all of us couldn't fit in the cab of the truck. So a couple of us had to get in the back. And
sitting here in the back of the truck.
So here we are sitting in the back of the truck, nothing else but our luck. Oh baby. Right. And it was a couple hours drive. So we were getting bored back there, obviously. And I just started coming up with this riff, and we were just adding to it. And we came up with a chorus that, "Hey, we're Cottage Bound." And it kind of died off from there. And then 2 or 3 years later, while we were doing the Living My Life CD, Todd was like, we need a couple more songs. And, rather than a slow song, we need something upbeat. And I'm like, well, I got this old song that, played around with years ago. And I just started playing with it. And he started adding the Barry's Bay and his own personal spin to it, because Todd was born in Barry's Bay. So that's why I threw that in there. And we kind of not changed it, but just kind of added to it and fixed the song, but wasn't really, meant to be a real song per se when it first started. It was just a sing along at a campfire, and then throwing, like, Jimmy doesn't have a phone, or Jimmy's wife doesn't know we have a phone. Like, that's all true, right? A buddy of ours was going out there, and his girlfriend didn't know that we didn't have a phone or anything back before cell phones and all that stuff. But and then it just kind of added to it. And the song became, and really when we recorded it, we didn't like it. When we were listening to the playback, the vocal just didn't sound right. All the harmonies didn't sound right. And it was the guy our engineer who mixed it. He really kind of saved the song for us to do it and put in another lead break in there and then added in more of a guitar to it. So it really filled out the song more than what we had originally. Yeah. More production would probably be the easiest way. That's how the song came
cool.
about.
So it was like you wrote it like, or at least came up with it initially like while you were Cottage Bound, while doing like on
Yeah.
in the truck bit. That's awesome.
That's
Yeah,
kind
we're
of when a
in the
lot
back
of
of
the
the truck.
best, a lot of the
Yeah.
best songs and stuff and stories, right? When they're true,
Yeah.
is kind of when when it's really good, right?
Yeah.
The last thing you want is just be making stuff up on the fly, right? So it's
But like
when
it
you're
wasn't
making
an
when you're writing it
after
as you're
effect.
doing
It
it,
was
yeah,
as
or
I was doing it. Yeah.
it was as you're
That's
doing
cool.
it, which is really cool.
Like, can't wait for the stove to be hot. So, we were freezing in the back of the truck. It was winter, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't very warm. So we were looking forward to getting there and getting the heat going. And yeah.
So, and I know it's one of, I mean, we mentioned it during the game, but and Natty has always told me that it's one of his favorite songs. Life on the Plains.
Hmm.
Where did that
Yeah.
song kind of come up?
Thinking Under Bar Lights.
Jump
We
around
were
a little bit.
again. This was a little later, and as a band, we were trying to come up with songs that not necessarily sound country,
Mhm.
but have that country story or
Just that sound to it.
yeah, like if it didn't sound country, but if the lyrics told a story more about the country music. And again, this is early 90s or late 90s, I guess, of the new country at that time with Garth Brooks and Alan Jackson and all those guys.
Yeah.
Right. So even though the stuff didn't sound necessarily country all the time, the lyrics or a story was there to kind of make up for that. So going into Life on the Plains was just about growing up in the cornfields or we were trying to think of Saskatchewan or something like that, right? It's all fields of grain and everything. And what would life be like growing up on a farm
Life
like
on the
that?
Plains.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from, right? Solely written by Jeff, which was our guitar player at the time.
Mhm.
He had this idea of like that older lady working in the store. Everybody knows her. Everybody kind of relies on her to go in and have a smile on her face every day, but it's a small town. She's got her own problems too. So he was trying to tell that type of story that it's a country life, but it's not necessarily the easiest either. And it was a different song. It wasn't even supposed to be on the album. That was just our warm-up song. And actually what you hear on the CD is the ghost recording. We never went back in. We never went back in and actually fixed it. That was our
I think
warm
that's
up.
hilarious.
Yeah.
That was our
That's fun.
that's our warm up song. And like that's why the vocal sounds it's a little lower, like it's not mixed right, because that was just us fooling around, really.
Yeah.
And we ran out of time but needed another song, so we that was put in very, very late in the process.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Another song.
Why do you like that song, Natty?
Yeah, Natty.
Why do I like it?
What speaks
why
to
you
you
so
about
why
that?
you so defensive, or I guess like offensive of DC?
I'm just wondering. Hey, that's a good question. That's good.
It's I'm
like
the one
picking
getting
on you. I
interviewed
like
now.
picking
All
on
right. No, I just
Before you answer,
Okay.
though, I will say, because that was coming off as a country song when we were just playing it, but we loved the drums to it, where that little stop.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to in the chorus where we kind of stop.
Feels like
pause,
a bup.
Yeah. So the drummer loved it, right? So it kind of gave us that rock feel, but country song. So
I mean,
anyway,
that's
go ahead.
probably a good reason why. If you didn't know, I'm a drummer. So whenever there's cool drum parts, and there are quite a bit of cool ones in your different songs that you got, I always recognize, and I'm like, that's awesome, and like how does that work? And I don't know, it's just really cool. I just like the feel of it. I don't really know much beyond that per se. I just
Fair
dig the
enough.
song.
I'm gonna ask a question here, because actually I don't know the answer to this. So, Dad, what would you say is your favorite song between the two albums? I don't know the answer to this, so I'm actually genuinely curious.
That's a hell of a good question.
It's a hard question.
Because I think as a writer, or when you're coming up with the songs, you fall in love with your own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, later on, years later, you listen to it again and go, I could have done this differently or changed this. As far as my favorite goes, geez, I don't know if I'd necessarily have a favorite.
Which one has the most meaning to you?
I think What to Do, the first one, just because that changed so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Just the melody, like it started off as 9 to 5, right? That's how we started writing that. I've been to Memphis, I've been to Texas, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then it morphed into, a totally different song, right? When me and Todd were writing it. But as far as the most fun was Edmund Fitzgerald. Just
I'm glad you brought this up. I was going to ask about this eventually.
just the change up of it, going through the process of getting, the rights to be allowed to record it, and worrying that, Gordy Lightfoot wouldn't like the fact that we rocked it right up, right? And removed two verses out of it just to shorten it. Because we were really pushing for radio at the time, and anything over 4 minutes, like the general rule is anything over 2 minutes, you're probably not going to get played, but we could get away with 4 minutes thanks to the Eagles and all those guys playing those longer songs.
Yeah.
But we wanted to keep it in the 4 minute format. So we had to cut out a couple verses, and I didn't think Gordy would like that, but he gave us the thumbs up, and we were able to do it. But just the whole feel of that song and the production piece of it, adding the thunder and the keyboards, and that was really a lot of fun to me.
That like guitar sound at the beginning, like the underwater sound, I think that's probably a highlight for me.
It's such a good cover. Definitely love it. Yeah.
And it's got 50,000 views on YouTube right now.
Yeah. Everyone else seems to agree. It's a good cover.
Well, it's Gordon Lightfoot too, right?
That is true.
Especially with Gordy Lightfoot's song, his version of, it's the original, but it just, for me, there was no peaks and valleys end of the song. It was just kind of keeps it monotone, and that's Gordy, right?
Yeah, that's his style.
That's his style, and he gets away with it, but you're still listening. And I just wanted that more of the slow down, speed up. Again, Natty as a drummer, you'd hear the slashing of the cymbals where that's the waves. Like we were trying to paint a picture.
I was about to point that out.
Right, we're trying to paint a picture when you're listening to it, right?
Yeah. Really well done.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and as I was saying earlier, like the sounds of like the underwater, like the effect that Jeff was using on his guitar to make it sound like you're underwater and you're like going towards the ship. That definitely, in the video, that's what I was going off of. The picture you guys were painting was what I was trying to go off of when I was re-editing that video. So you painted it very well.
I would love to tell you what effect that was on the guitar, but we don't even know. It was a board that he had with like 10,000 different settings on it.
You just picked that one.
And then all he would do is like run his thumbnail along the strings, and it would come up with that whoosh.
Yeah.
It's really, really neat.
Yeah.
So
I got another song.
Go ahead.
That I'd love to hear story behind. Two of a Kind. It's a song I enjoy.
Great song.
As well. So I was wondering if you.
I think you're the only one.
It's fair.
Two of a Kind. Actually, one of the first songs I've written.
Dang. All right.
No. I'm just saying not too many people mention that song. It's a love song, right?
The ballad, right?
That's what I got out of it.
Writing that song was, that's probably going back to 1990. That's probably one of my first songs that I've ever written on my own.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It comes off as pretty mushy and pretty like I just lost the love of my life.
Yeah.
And it was basically written about TZ's mom, who went away for the weekend, and this song just spilled out of me. Again, no real plan of writing a song. I just sat down with a guitar, and this is what came out. Really, really quick. Didn't take much time. I want to say maybe a half an hour spent on it. And I haven't really changed it much over the years.
Okay.
And it ended up being my wedding song.
Yeah.
That's
first dance at the wedding. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Is it weird to dance to your own song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I have a hard time listening to like when I'm singing. Like it's not like some people are weirded out by it. Like I'm not weirded out by it, but like if I'm alone, I'm not gonna like turn on a song that's by me.
Yeah.
No, only if you want to sit there and pick it apart and
Yeah.
I feel like you're
Yeah.
like your head's in like two different places while you're dancing. You're like happy. It's like just listening to the song. You're like, ah.
Yeah, I could have done that better.
Yeah.
yeah. And the overall recording, I was never happy with that song. Always heard pure piano throughout the whole thing.
No.
But it just seemed to drag when we had, so at the beginning it starts with the piano and then kind of fades into the guitar, just because it didn't sound right when the piano was trying to carry the whole song throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we switched it off. So I was never really happy with the final product of that song.
Yeah.
But it's a good song, so thank you.
Yeah, no,
Thanks
it's
for
no
the
one. I
accolades for that.
I didn't think you were actually gonna bring that up. To be honest with you.
Yeah. I
mean,
dig it.
Yeah. Hey,
It's a nice
great
ballad.
pick.
Yeah.
Well, we can move on to some of the live stuff if you want.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say was like the biggest live performance you guys did? And
Probably
what's like?
Havelock Jamboree is probably the biggest one we ever did.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a big festival that they have here, and
At least used to have.
I want to say it's like a camping event weekend. So they bring in, 80,000 people come into the park, stay there for the weekend. They have various artists. When we were there, we played an hour and a half set. So again, this is going back to 2001, 2002, where Dwight Yoakam, the Bellamy Brothers, John Michael Montgomery,
All huge names.
some big names in country music at the time that were playing in this. So we get an hour and a half slot, and we go up and basically play Thinking Under Bar Lights. We play a couple of covers as well, but we throw in a few originals.
Yeah, well, that's where you want to play it, right? You want them to recognize you for your stuff.
Right. Now you can't go up there and start singing Alan Jackson if he's coming up.
Yeah.
Two or three. So yeah, we had to be careful at that point. The Bellamy Brothers. Yeah. The Bellamy Brothers were out in the back, and I think we were singing a couple of their songs too. But that's probably the biggest venue that we ever, like I said, it was over 80,000 people in the park throughout the weekend. A couple, again, we were the no-namers there. So I want to say 4,000 or 5,000 were probably standing in front of us.
Still a big
We've
crowd.
also played, so it was a good crowd. And I want to say the Ride for Sight is another one. Years ago, they'd get 100,000 people in the park. Again, camping event over the few weekends.
Yeah.
I guess the one-nighter show is in Niagara Falls, the Festival of Lights. It was a winter show, which was really kind of cool. But I want to say there was at least 3,000 people in that venue as well. So again, opening it up for different artists.
So those are the biggest ones. Would you say they're the most memorable?
Sure.
Trying to hit you with the high. Sure. Okay. Keep
Sure.
it easy. Keep it easy.
Well, it's just funny because I go back and watch Havelock, and I don't really recall even doing that show. Like I don't remember being on stage. Yeah, the adrenaline and everything else. There's stuff that I was watching on after. I'm like, I don't remember doing that. I don't remember saying that.
No, yeah.
And I definitely screwed up a lot of the intros listening back because obviously, the adrenaline was
just nervous and
right up here and not paying attention to what I was actually doing.
Yeah.
I see it.
Is there a
Sorry,
favorite
go ahead.
moment from like a performance that you've had that you like can remember, whether it be like something good, something went wrong, or just something that you remember that?
There's going back to that. There's so many things happen on stage that are hilarious, funny.
Yep.
The banter between the band in between songs. Sometimes we were always bad at that as far as the breaks between songs because we were joking around up there. We're, making having fun, right? Yeah. And so I think, there's not just one moment. There's 1,000 different moments I could probably go into as far as my favorite of what happened or what someone was doing on stage or maybe what a crowd member did or or something like that.
But all the small
that
things.
Yeah, a ton of small things.
Yeah.
That's what made it fun, right? The stuff before the stage, before you got there, the drive to the gig, that wasn't so much fun for me anyway. That was the part I didn't like. The setup, the tear down. But when you're on stage and you're finally going through it, that's what made it worth it. It was playing with the guys and gals in the band and just having fun making music.
Yeah.
But I can't pick off one particular moment.
No, there's probably hundreds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of stories.
I get you.
So should we just like talk about the Cottage Bound album that we recorded out in the shed now, or?
Sure.
Well, I always love telling this story because how we recorded it was so
archaic. Like, well, even going back to Thinking Under Bar Lights, we didn't know what we were doing there either. We recorded that in my basement. So after Living My Life, because it was about $1,000 a song, when it's all said and done, we were like, well, we want to do a full album. Why don't we just record it ourselves, save us the money? But we didn't know what we were doing. So, and at that time, it was in between the old analog stuff or gear equipment, and it was all being upgraded to this digital on, doing everything on a computer. So we had some old equipment, new equipment, and trying to get the transfer back then was really difficult. So that was all new to us. So we basically had a CD release date at a club, one of the biggest clubs in Canada, with the date set, and we haven't had a CD recorded yet.
That's always great.
So it forced us to do it and learn very quickly. But we had, lots of problems. I remember telling TZ the story where we had a converter of what plugged into the back of the computer with all the mics and everything. But the first hour we set up, it worked perfectly. But then it would start grounding out. We'd get a buzz sound, and we couldn't figure out what it was. And we realized that my buddy would come up in the morning and have this box in the back of his trunk, and it would get cold. And as it warmed up, it would like ground out and buzz. So we moved everything and wired everything to my chest freezer that was in the basement. We put this unit in the chest freezer and wires coming in and out of it. My wife thought we were crazy, but it didn't ground out. It came out with a perfect sound.
That's
miraculous.
And it worked, right? So, but then, you move up to today where we're talking about the second Cottage Bound recording was on a BR8. This thing is a zip drive. Yeah, if we were out in a shed, I could show you some of the old gear on it, but just old equipment. It was top of the line at the time, 2001. It was basically like an 8-track, right? You can only have one track on it if you wanted to record or just kind of get something down before forgetting it. So that's what we bought it. We ended up doing the whole thing on 8 tracks.
Yeah. Well, I just remember when we recorded the drums for all the songs for Cottage Bound, Unpack Your Heart, and Love Runs Out. We had Tyler come over and we used 2 mics. I always love telling this. I told the story probably 100 times by now. And the one mic we had, it was right in the middle of the drums, both vocal mics, by the way. And the other one we just kind of threw in the bass drum. And then I remember he came over and he never heard the songs, never played them before. And he was there like, oh yeah, no, I'll play it. And then, if I screw up, we can always just go back and, re-record it, it's fine. And we were like, well, no, because we're limited to how many minutes we have on this system.
Yeah,
you screw up, we lose that.
Yeah. He was like, oh no. No, it was really funny though, just recording that particular album, just because there was so many like a lot of bootleg stuff in there, and I think it came out really, really well.
Yeah, and we had to rewrite it, right? So because the
you
original
rewrote Cottage Bound too, yeah.
We had to come up with a different chorus because in the original it says, Todd's dreaming about the bar, and Chad's got his guitar. I think I just flipped that, but so we had to rewrite all of that, right?
Yeah, we rewrote it to beer and an old guitar, and hope the drive ain't that far.
I think it's better.
I think it's more general, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Chimmy instead of Jimmy.
I said Chimmy. I definitely said Chimmy than the first recording.
Jimmy left his wife at home.
I definitely said it. And it's funny because there's a guy in our community named, his name is Chimichangas, and we call him Chimmy, but I didn't even know him at the time. Yeah, I didn't even. That's his username, and I didn't even know him at the time. Like, that's the funny thing.
Wow.
And it's like,
Chimmy
yeah,
left
dude,
his wife
apparently I
alone.
knew you before I knew you.
Yeah.
Well, we all do it. You hear a lot of rolls.
Yeah,
And you know, when I'm singing it, I'm just finding the key.
yeah.
Is it cool performing and making that album with TZ, like seeing your son and playing with him? Like, is that a cool feeling?
Absolutely, a cool feeling.
Sit
Yeah.
back here and want to gas
You just wanna sit
Yeah.
there.
I'm just,
You know, the
yeah.
fact that, you know, Ryder learned how to play guitar pretty quickly, in the big scheme of things. He can thank COVID for that.
Let's go.
Where, yeah, like
All the time
he always
COVID
was
time.
interested.
Let's
He was always interested in, you know, learning a couple of chords and here and there, but he didn't really pick up on it until he took guitar in high school, which I wish they had that when I was in high school. And he really accelerated because he was doing it every day, and it's just the time you put into it. So because he was playing every day for school, and then after school he was, you know, trying to learn stuff on his own, he came along really quickly. So yeah, to be able to sit there and jam with Ryder and play and sing and then sit down and actually trying to record some of this stuff, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, we even did all that before I knew how to play guitar too.
Yeah.
Because we did all that in 2019 before COVID, right?
Yeah.
Because even in the Cottage Bound video, there's a shot in there, and it's actually where the TZ pod comes from. I'm holding the guitar the wrong way, and it's because I was making a joke that I was like, oh yeah, I'll just like pretend I'm playing the guitar, and because I didn't know how to play it at the time, right?
That's true.
But it's in the video, and it's just really, I love that detail. And yeah, that's where the TZ pod comes from. Everybody makes fun of them.
But TZ was ham for the mic right from the get-go. Like going back to the Rock Band days and stuff like that, like 4 or 5 years old, he was on the mic.
Yeah.
Right. He wanted to sing. So
to kind of move on, I guess we'll kind of move on to the more recent stuff, right? Because now you got kind of Cottonmouth. That's kind of where you like. That's what you and Jay are more doing now. So how did that kind of start up? Like, and what was like the main reason for it? Because it is just easier. That's probably the main reason. But
that's what it came down to.
Yeah.
Geez, I'm gonna get my years mixed up here.
That's fine.
The band was going through a different transition at the time after all these big gigs and everything else we were talking about. We went on like a 4 or 5 year hiatus where we just kind of took a break. We were doing 240 shows a year. Playing, all these places all over the place, carrying a full-time job, a couple of kids in the background as well. It just became too much. We needed at least personally, I needed a bit of a break.
Absolutely.
So when we took that break, we were still getting offers to play here and there locally. But it was just not, I don't want to say just money related, but, the offers we were getting wouldn't really support, the whole band.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a big thing right now. I know in general.
Where music today, I think they're getting paid worse than it was when I was starting out. So, so that's really where it came to, is local. Hey, you want to play this gig from here to this time? Mm-hmm. We're like, sure, but just me and my drummer will come and do it. And it just took off. Like it really, more of these little smaller venues anyway that we weren't playing before were now interested because, well, they didn't necessarily want a full band, just a duo, because it was cheaper for them too.
Yeah.
But the sound and everything else and the funness and the easiness of it.
Well, the
Pure
easier
easiness of it. Yeah.
coordinate with 2 than 4 or however
Right.
5 or however many you got in the band.
Right. It's just, with the drummer and I just bang, bang, come in, set up a PA. It's pretty easy peasy.
Yeah.
Where with 4 guitar, bass, everyone's levels, everyone's, it's just a lot more involved.
Absolutely.
So Cottonmouth came up, really not something we were really trying to push.
Just kind of
But it kind of happened with, those venues that can't afford a full band, but still want something, we could provide for that too. And actually got more popular and it was just a money thing, for the other venues. Right.
No.
But that's where that is. And that's where we're still doing it today. Whether it's a truck fest, a rib fest, or some sort of a festival, we're getting booked for those as well, just the duos.
Natty, you got anything left on your list?
Let me look down the list. Do you think we'll ever see more of your music, more Chad music, more Young Country, more Conmouth, like new music?
Well, you mean like specifically on like the YouTube channel, or just?
Or just in general, yeah.
In general, we probably have another album.
There's the Cedar Home Sessions.
It's the Cedar Home Sessions that we wrote. So when we were doing our little hiatus, I was just discussing there a little bit, but when we took a break, Jeff and myself and another buddy who was into writing at the time got together quite a bit. And that's what we were doing. We were trying to write some more new stuff. And I think the writing got better as we went along. And unfortunately, the band didn't necessarily fold, but we just never got back together as far as the recording piece or the live stuff. There's been a couple other versions of Young Country, I guess, playing some live shows, but we never actually went in and recorded it as a full band, where it was usually just Jeff and I on that old BR8 that we were talking about, just trying to get some ideas down at the time, so we could go in and do a full recording of them. And that's like all we got. Basically demos. Yeah. But there's probably 15 songs that are still sitting there, that we never actually went back to re-record. And I got a couple more that I've written. I don't sit down and write as much as I used to, or put the time into it. But there's at least 15 songs we could probably release on the website in the next little while. And I know that's going to be a part of our plan.
Yeah, it's a little side project. It's pretty much all of it's put together. I know we got some stuff from that era that you were talking about, the song, and then we have some live stuff that you've recorded, and then we've had some other more like fun live stuff, if you know what I mean. It's edited in crowds, but it's part of the fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
No date on it yet, but it's
no date on it. But I think the songs are just better. They're catchier. They're we got better at writing.
More experienced, yeah.
100%. I mean, you get better as you go, right? That goes with anything.
Yeah, totally.
And then the last topic I guess I'll bring up, because we're coming up into an hour here. How has the music industry changed from back when you were getting into it to now? Because it's completely changed. That's the question I've written down, but it's completely changed in terms of how it's digital and how you get big. Now it's just about how big you are on TikTok. But
well, that's just it. So I think that's the biggest change for me, is where I just mentioned we were playing 240 shows. We did that for 2 or 3 years, because you couldn't just, although you had to have a website back then, you had to have your own website. YouTube wasn't a thing.
Nope.
Facebook wasn't that wasn't a thing either. So you had to have a website because people wanted to go and look at your content. But the only way to get out there and get in front of people was to go out and play live.
Yeah.
So you had to go. There was no sit in front of my computer on a Friday night. You had to be on stage at 9:00 on a Friday night at some venue to get through to people, and then have a CD to sell them or get your name out there. So now you can reach you know, like you said, 15,000 people
With Edmund Fitzgerald, yeah.
Edmund Fitzgerald, right? For me to reach that many people live would take probably the whole year of gigs, right?
That's true.
So, you know, your reach now is limitless as far as I'm concerned, as far as music goes.
I mean, just on a smaller scale, look at Life on the Plains with Natty. You know what I mean? Like doesn't live anywhere near Ontario.
Yeah, I would never. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, people are finding this stuff online. They're, you know,
enjoying it.
and liking the stuff and liking the content. So,
yeah, absolutely.
That's the biggest change I see is, you know, and of course, you know, Spotify and all these other type of, you know, it was more about getting the spins on the radio. Although it would cost you, you would make money back on the royalty piece of it. Now it just radio, I don't think it's really in play as much as it was, right? Everything's
it still is, but it's in a different way.
You know, it's not about how many plays are getting. It's you know, it's how many downloads, I guess, or how many on Spotify and stuff like that, right? So it's just a different media, the way they I guess track all of that stuff as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's I think it's something my teacher said. You know, my sound recording teacher. He said back you know back in the day. This is back when he was going around. He said you know you needed to go to a studio. You needed to go to you know a professional to get it recorded and get it done the right way to make any kind of album. Nowadays, anybody with a laptop and a microphone can make a good record, right? So it's limitless in that way as well. Like now everybody has access to it. There's hundreds of thousands of different recording softwares. If it's Adobe Audition, if it's BandLab, or there's hundreds of different ways for you to record it. So like there's not really an excuse anymore, if that makes any sense. So now you're seeing everybody, right? Like there's a bunch of people who have this talent who necessarily maybe didn't have the money to do it before. Who now there's kids and there's the younger generation who are just making content, putting it out there, and they're getting picked up by these bigger record companies and are getting given full albums and stuff like that. Or if not, they're just making a solo career off of YouTube or TikTok and Spotify and that kind of stuff. So
and then the whole business side of it has also changed, right? So
absolutely,
like the best example I use is Bon Jovi. Right, yep. Slippery When Wet. When they released that album, I think it was 40 million in sales. Today, if they were to release that on Spotify, and let's just 40 million in sales back then of your CDs, tapes, whatever, right? Albums.
Set for life.
Set for life. These guys would never have to do a thing ever again for their lifetime. Today, if they were getting 40 million streams on Spotify, they'd make $7,000.
Yeah.
So that's
pretty wild.
A total change of where the money is, right? So now artists like Taylor Swift, she's got to go out and play these stadiums.
Yeah.
I'm selling out of 60, 80,000 because that's where all the money is. That's where she's making it's not on Spotify. It's not on the radio. So that whole business side of it is completely changed.
Yeah.
And what you were saying, as far as anybody with a laptop and a mic can record. Some of them shouldn't be recording.
No,
some
absolutely not.
Shouldn't be doing it. Right. But they have access to it, and the software and everything is so good now. You can't tell the difference anymore. Or back, 20 years ago, you could kind of tell that Thinking Under Bar Lights was maybe recorded. Maybe not in a basement. I think we were on the verge of, with the technology back then.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't sound as good as if it was in a full,
professional studio.
Yeah. But yeah, today's music is.
It's pretty wild.
It's definitely different.
And now you have like things like AI and all that coming in too, right?
Totally.
That's a whole other can of worms to go into. We don't have to go down
totally
that road,
creepy now with the AI stuff.
Yeah. It's crazy how far that's developed and musically and creativity. It's weird.
Just to go on that whole Cottage Bound AI stuff.
Oh, yeah, I was showing you some of that last night,
and it's just, to me, that's a good example of just how disposable new music, to me, is.
Can be,
where a computer can spit it out in a minute and a half of a version of a song, and it sounds like what's on the radio today, because to me, it's probably not too far off of how they're
Probably
doing
not,
it,
no.
right? But everything sounds like everything else because there's no soul to it,
Yeah.
right?
I know that's what a lot of music purists are worried about, right? With AI and a lot of, even with just how music has kind of been going. Like obviously that's not everything, right? When I say that, like there's a good quantity that still is, pumping out good music, but there's some artists that are people are worried are like, well, if this is kind of the way it's going, it's music's kind of losing its soul to it, right? Where if
Yeah,
you compare it to like the pre 2000s, is kind of what I'll compare it to.
I think
Um,
Dave Grohl, I think, said it best, where you get 4 or 5 guys in a garage jamming and they suck,
mhm.
right? And everyone's been there as far as starting a band or any. You got to start from somewhere,
Yeah.
but you get better, you play more, you get better, you feed off of the other guys that you're playing with, and it also becomes a team, right?
Yeah.
And that to me is what brings the music together, is when
Mhm.
you're doing it with the team. And it's okay to screw up, it's okay to mess up somewhere. You listen to old Beatles records, you hear mistakes all the time, but that made
yeah.
it real. It made
Yeah.
it real, right? And I think that even when you go into a studio and record each piece at a different time, I always found that really strange, because you lose that feel of everyone playing together.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Where it's not perfect, where you're all in the same room, you can look at each other and laugh at this piece or whatever.
Yeah.
It brings the band more together, and it affects the sound. When you listen to a band live off the floor versus a studio, it's a different feel, right?
Yeah.
And not too many bands nowadays could even do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
scary.
well, I think I mean, Natty, you got anything else you want to add?
I don't think so, but yeah.
All right.
Thanks
Well,
for
thanks for
showing.
having me, guys.
Yeah. This
No,
was a lot
thanks
of
for
fun.
coming out. It's for our second guest episode,
I appreciate
and
it.
especially with all the technical difficulties we had at the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah, sorry to Slater Pro for bumping him. I think
Yeah.
I know for all the technical mishaps we had today. I know.
Yeah, we had to lose
I think
him.
we got the wrong Slade, but hey,
Yeah.
this guy was interested. So.
Slater, we'll get you next time.
Yeah.
I know we missed you today, but it's whatever.
If you guys somehow made it through this entire podcast and you have no idea about Young Country, and you now know a little bit more, go check out the music.
Put a link down in the description.
Yeah, it's awesome.
YouTube.
Give it a listen. It's great stuff. But yeah.
And yeah, once again, just thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching this episode of the ATG Podcast. And we will talk to you guys in the next one.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.